Alright, so for this video we're going to now go ahead and play with socketing. We're going to allow the player to pick up an item which will socket to what would be the left hand. We've obviously got our gun in our right. And then we'll be able to pick it up, drop it, and then if it is close to it's where it belongs, or a potential spot where it belongs, maybe it's not exactly where it belongs, then it will snap to or socket to that location. And so for this, we're just going to go ahead and we're going to create here on this wall, we're going to create, let's go ahead and add a 3D object. We're going to make it a cube, and we're going to bring it out just a little bit. It's super huge, so let's scale this down a bunch. That's probably good. Shrink it down. Shrink it down. We just want to create basically a little shelf. It's a little too small. That looks pretty good. We'll bring it out. Maybe let's shrink it this way a bit more. I think that's probably pretty good there. And we can shrink this. All right. So we'll create that as kind of our one of our spots, and then we're gonna so what we're gonna do, we're just gonna socket a battery and we're gonna turn on a light. That's how we're gonna know if we socket it correctly. So let's just go ahead and duplicate this, and we'll just raise it up a little bit to create a spot for that battery to be. Maybe we can change the material so it stands out a little bit more. We'll just make them gunmetal. Why not? Okay. At least changes it a bit. And then let's onto our bottom cube. Oh, goodness. Onto our bottom cube. Let's go ahead and add a light. So right click, we want a light. Let's do a point light. That's a huge point light. We don't need it to be that big. We're going to drop it down a little bit, just under it. Bring it out just a little bit. Let's go ahead. We'll increase the intensity to like 5. Why not? I'm going to change my color to, I don't know, a nice blue. Let's go here-ish. That looks kind of cool. And then we will, we don't need its range that much. So let's do the range of like maybe 2. I think that looks pretty good. All right, that gives us that. So when we actually plug it through, then this light will come on. We're gonna turn the light off for the moment, so we can do that just by turning it off, setting active to technically false. Okay, so let's now create our battery, and we're going to here we're going to create just into our environment, we're going to create a cylinder, because that looks like a battery to a degree. We can even, let's make it, create material, let's make it yellow. Maybe yellow, kind of around here-ish. Yeah, good enough. We'll call this battery. That is not how you spell battery. battery, and we'll go ahead and attach that to our battery. And I'm going to actually change the cylinder names to battery. That's fine. Okay, now we're going to shrink this to fit nicely into our space. So we're just going to kind of mix it around, get it until it fits nicely into that location. We want to maybe bring this out a little bit. Let's actually so it looks like 0.45, 0.3, 0.45. What does that do? Obviously, depending upon where your objects here are located, yours is going to be a different size more than likely. It looks pretty darn close, and then we'll just kind of set it in here. All right, and then what we're going to do, because we want to make a point where we're going to socket to, and so socket really works just great with, I mean, you can do it to a, we could socket it to a battery, but we're going to go ahead and do it through a empty game object. So we're going to create an empty as a child of the battery, and we're going to call it battery socket. And so that is set to the 0, 0, 0 of the battery. So now if we remove that from it, now it lives in the world space, so we can move our battery out. We'll just say go away for a minute, and our battery socket is right there. So when we socket the battery to it, it's going to snap to that position. Okay. Now, what we want to do, where we're going to put the battery, let's just, let's go ahead and I'm going to add into the environment, I'm going to go ahead and create a 3D object. I'm going to make a cube. I'm going to slide it over a little bit, just bring it down, set it kind of next to the mirror here. That's probably good. Give or take that. I'm going to go ahead and actually add a component of a nav mesh obstacle. That way it carves out a bit. We're going to set it all to 2 though. Make it cut it out a little bit more. That way our robot would not go through that, which works. And then I'm just going to go ahead and bring the battery over here, drop it down. Onto our little table thing here. All right. And then for the battery, we're going to go ahead and we're going to give it, we're going to give it a rigid body. And the reason we're going to do that is we want it to use gravity. So when it's, if we go pick it up, it's going to then snap to what we want it to snap to, which will be our hand. And then if we let go of it, if we're nowhere near the battery or the plug-in spot for our battery, we just want it to fall to the ground. So then we can pick it up. So we're going to do that. So we're going to give it a rigid body so that it has that attached to it. We're going to keep use gravity on. All right, that covers that. So now let's go to our player. And we want to, onto our player, we want to set up like we did with our gun launch position, right? We're going to add an empty game object to our player. So right click on our player, create empty. We're going to call this left hand. We can call it a left hand socket. It technically is. And so now we're going to move that socket. We're going to move it out about there. And then we want to actually, I should have done it this way. We're going to actually attach this to our main camera, right? We want to keep that attached as we had before. And so we can get a feel for what this looks like. We can just put a 3D object onto it. We'll just do a sphere for right now. Don't like the huge ones, so we're just going to set half of the size. And so when we pick something up, it's going to be there. Maybe we'll move it back just a little bit. We can call it that spot. So that gives us an idea of where we're going to put it. So we're going to remove our sphere now. All right, now what we want to do is when we're going to be, we need to make a list of things that we can pick up, right? That's going to be a requirement. So what we're going to do here for our player, we could attach this to our player controller script. But I'm going to build it in its own script, just so that it's standalone and not kind of buried in with all the other stuff. It wouldn't be buried in, but just keeping it separate for right now, so that we have control over that. So we're going to create a new script, and we're going to call this, let's call it player pickup script. So player pickup, we're going to open up player pickup, and we're going to here, we are going to do a serialized field, private, we're going to do game object, game object, that's fine doing it as a game object, and I'm just going to call it left hand because that's what we're setting it up to be. And so with that, we shouldn't need to start. I'm going to leave it for the moment just in case I change my mind. But so we're going to now be able to pick up an item, right? And so we're going to, we need to also do a, let's do a serialized field? Let's do a serialized field. So serialized field, private list, we want a list of games. So game object, list, no, that's the wrong order. List game object, that's what we want. Pick upable objects. Equals new, actually, no, equals new list game objects. That is not right. New list game object. What are you? Oh, I probably need. Probably need actually using Unity engine that is system dot collections dot generic. There we go. I knew I had generic in there somewhere. So that's going to allow us now to make a list. We could do this as an array. I like doing a list because you can easily add to and remove items from that. If you know for certain these are the items that you are never going to change that, then make this an array. That's perfectly good. I just never trust that I'm going to be 100% set that that's what it is, and that I might not add something just randomly in the game, right? A treasure drop or something like that from fighting an enemy or something, right? And so that's why I like to use lists. And so if we save this, we can actually, we're going to put this on our player, which was the player pickup script. And so now we have pickupable objects. And so we can actually, which is kind of fun, pick up, and we can drag to pickupable objects and drop in the battery. So that makes it nice and easy. And so now we've stated that, okay, batteries are pickupable, great. And so now what we're going to do is, let's go in our update, if input dot get key down key code, let's use E as our key code. So if you press the E button, that's going to be our interaction key for this one. It can be whatever you want it to be, whatever makes sense, right? And so what we're going to do is we're going to check and see what is the closest pickupable object to our player. So to do that, we're going to run through the list and just get the distances for each. And so what we'll do is we're going to make this a loop. So we're going to go ahead and in here we're going to run this as it should work. We're going to do a for each loop. Right, we want to go through each item in our list. And so this is a game object, right? That's what our list is. And we'll do game object, we'll say object in, can I go with let's see if I can get over the object in pickupable. No, it's not going to like that. Game object. call it item in pickupable objects. So we're going to go through each one of them, and it's going to be, we're calling it item. So first we can just make sure if item is not null, right? We want to make sure it's actually there. Then we can get the distance, float distance equal, actually let's do, don't want to have it that way. We want, we're going to create a couple more variables. So we're going to do a private object, it is a private float, object distance, and a private game object closest object. All right, that way we can track what that is. And so now, in this case, we're only putting one object in, so this is really going to be obvious, but we want to be able to just know. And so what we're going to do with that, we have our left hand, we're going to need that. We're going to do, we're still going to do float distance, distance is equal to vector 3 dot distance. And so we're going to do this from our left hand dot transform position to item transform position. And I'm going to drop this so we can see it better. All right, so we're going to get this. We're going to just set a temporary float to the distance, and that's the distance between our left hand position and the item. And so it's going to run that through for each of them. And so we're going to say, if distance is less than object distance, then we're going to do something. And so we're going to actually set our object distance to, let's set it to 5. Because we want it to be close. We don't want it to be too far away. So we're going to say, to start out, boom, object distance is 5. So now, boom, we're going to go through. We're going to press our E key. Actually, let's do this. We're going to leave this empty there, but we're going to do, when we press E, we're going to reset. No, we don't want close. That's fine. And we're going to create actually another game object. Held object. And so I do the worst job of keeping track of my naming conventions. Let's do it. It's fine. We're good. And then we'll just change this to lowercase. We're going to set, upon pressing E, we're going to actually, above this, if held object is null. So we're going to start off held object equals null, right? So we are not holding anything at the beginning. So as long as we are not holding something, so as long as it is null, we want to then, we don't want to pick something up if we already have something. So if our held object is null, we're going to go ahead and if we hit E, if we're not holding anything and we hit E, then we're going to, actually, hold on, let me change that. We want to, so sorry, we're going to add this actually in here. So on pressing E, if held object is null, then we want to do this. And then else, so if we are holding something, then we want to drop it. So if we're not holding something, then we want to have the potential of picking something up. If we are holding something, then we want to drop it. And so what we're going to do here is we're going to object distance. Each time we do that, we want to make sure we're within 5 units. We'll say 5 meters. That's a little far. We might dial this in a little bit tighter. Actually, we probably want to dial this tighter, right? So if there are 2 objects really close to each other, then we're going to bring that in a little closer. So maybe we'll make this, let's make it 3. Why not? We'll play with it. We might dial that in a little bit more. So we're going to reset that every time, and then we're going to check that. And so now if the distance, as we've gone through all the items in the pickupable objects, if that distance is actually closer than that, we're going to go ahead and pick up the item. And if I remember correctly, we should be able to do this through item, which becomes the child object, transform dot parent, and we're setting that to our left hand dot transform. That should work. So actually, I've gotten ahead of myself as usual. So we're going to go through our for each. If distance is less than the object distance, we're going to set, we'll save this. We'll get back to it in a second. We want to first, because there might be multiple close to it, so we want to set object distance is now object distance is now equal to distance, and closest item or closest object is our item. Closest object equals item. And then we're going to be checking through this again, right? So if we're going to go through this for each one of these. And so let me cut this. We don't need that there. Or yeah, cut it out. So if that's the case, is you're going to track down through all of that. And then once that has all fallen through, right? If something's closer, it's going to replace it. We're going to get through all the items in our pickable objects. And then we're going to say, we're not going to say item at this point because we've set that. We're going to say closest object is now going to get transformed to our parent, or yeah, to our left hand. It's going to get added to that. It's going to be stuck on there, and we're going to before that, before we do that, closest object dot get component rigid body use gravity equals false. We don't want to be using gravity anymore. We don't want it to fall at that moment in time. So that's now just should stay locked to our hand, which we'll test in a minute. And then if we have something in our hand, right? So this is happening if we don't have something in our hand. If we do have something in our hand, we're going to unparent it from our hand. It's going to drop to the floor. We're going to turn gravity back on so that it can just drop to the floor. We're going to have another, we're going to do that for now, and then we're going to add another step in that's going to check for seeing if there's a socketable position for it. So first, what we just need to do here is we're going to detach that child from the parent. So detach the game object from our hand. So that would be we want to, actually, I forgot a step. We're going to closest side of object here. I'm going to change this up. Closest object needs to move to held object, right? So if all of this is going to be true, so if we go for all that, and then we can do a if object distance is less than 3f, right? So we've got that connected there. Then we're going to say that held object is equal to closest object, right? We've set what that is. This is only going to be there if it's closer than 3. And then we're going to bring these in to here. And we're going to say, instead of we're closest, we're going to change this to now held object. Okay, so now if we have something held, right? So we press E and we're holding something, right? So it's not null anymore. If held object does not equal null, right? Actually, that is where we're at. Hold on, I just repeated what this is. So that's what this else is saying. If it's not equal to null, or yeah, if it's not null, then we're going to do held object dot parent dot transform parent equals null, and then we're going to not only do that, we're going to actually say that held object is now null, right? So we want to say that we are not holding something so that we can actually go back up in here and pick something up again as we would go. All right. This should hopefully work. We're going to find out here in a second. Let's save that. And then we're going to come in here. We've got our player pickup. We've added the battery to it. We want to add our left hand. socket here. So we've been able to measure that. And go ahead and save. And now what I'm actually going to do, yeah, I'm going to do this real quick. We're going to actually add to our left hand, we're going to add a 3D object. We're going to add a sphere back. We're going to make it smaller. I'm going to do it to 0.25 all the way around. And I'm going to turn off its collider. That way it does not collide with anything, because we don't need that. Just so that we have an idea of where we're at, right? We want to be able to know kind of where that position is. You don't have to do that, but it's a little bit more helpful in this case. And so now if we play, if I press E to start, nothing should happen. And it doesn't, which is great. So if we get up here, and we're going to get close to it, and if I press E again, we now have moved the battery to our socket. You can see it here in our hierarchy, but there's a problem. And that problem is that it is, one, it's colliding with things, so that always makes it fun. That's not the biggest worry at the moment, but it's not, one, we forgot to turn gravity back on, so it's not dropping, and then two, it's not snapping to here. So let's fix that. First, we're going to add gravity back onto it, but before we can't do that here, we've got to do it here. Held object dot get component rigid body use gravity equals true. Turning gravity back on so it'll fall, and then we want to. This is just attaching it, parenting it. We want to additionally go ahead and do held object transform position equals left hand transform position. That should allow it to snap to that. And then we're going to want to I'm not going to worry about the collider at the moment. Let's just make sure this works first. So we'll save that. Let's play. Move up. Press E. There we go. And now it snaps directly to our hand. And now if we hit E again, it falls to the ground. And now we can pick it back up. You know what? We are going to want to lock that thing in. That is just funky. And so we're going to, I think we can get away with it in our battery if we go ahead and we want, let's do is kinematic true. Let's see if that fixes it. It may or may not. Sometimes that's enough, sometimes it's not. And I'd rather first make sure it is. That is my fear. Yep, is kinematics going to cause that problem? So we want that off. Let's put our constraints on. We're going to freeze rotations. So we don't want to rotate it in the X, Y, or Z. That should fix it. We'll try this and see if that does it. All right, and it falls. We definitely do not want it rotating like it's rotating. All right. Let's keep trying to dial it in. Let's see if we leave the Y rotation available. What's that going to do? That's still not doing it. What if we remove those ones? Sometimes it's just trial and error to get it dialed into exactly the way you want it. That is definitely not what we want. Let's just turn them all back on for now. Let's, if object is not null, let's see, let's see if this will do it. If held object is not null, held object rotation transform dot rotation equals vector 3 dot u quaternion Euler 0 identity. I just want this to go straight up and down. Let's see if that, we just want it to stay in that straight up and down spot no matter what we do or rotate. Let's see if this will, there we go. That's what we need. Perfect. Okay. Hey. Perfect. So now, as long as we're holding something, we just make sure that its rotation is always that zeroed out version. And for quaternion, that's dot identity. So that solves that problem. Okay. Now, so we want to now let me come back over to this. We're going to pick this up. Right, and so now, oops, I don't want to do rotating that way. I want to rotate this way. And so when we come over here, that's fine. We want to kind of, when we get about here, we want to be able to, when we push E again, instead of dropping to the ground, we want it to snap to the battery position. So we're going to do that. Oh my goodness, where did my mouse go? There we are. So we're going to create another. You could create this as another list. Say you have multiple spots where the battery could go. That would be perfectly viable to do. In this case, we have one location. I'm not going to create it as a list. We're just going to create it. You've seen how to use the list. So we're going to do serialized field, private, game. Let's do transform. Transform, battery, position. And so if we hit E and we're holding something, we're going to do a check. So we're going to do if, we're going to first get the distance. So we're going to do another float, distance, vector 3, distance. And we're going to do from our left hand. So left hand, transform position to the battery position. We don't have to say transform in this case because we have already transformed it. Let me just do a return. So once again, you can see it easily in the screen. We already have this. It's set up as a transform, so we don't have to say transform again. So we're just getting the position of that. And then if distance is less than, let's say 2 in this case. So you need to be pretty close to where you're going. You might even want to say 1. Maybe so if you have multiple that are pretty close to each other, we can say that it's 1. You can once again dial this into where it is. So if it's less than that, we're going to attach it to that. Otherwise, else, this is when we're going to drop it. And so now what we'll do is we're going to say held object transform parent equals battery position. Right, we're going to switch its who it's connected to, so it's no longer connected to the hand. It's now connected to the battery position, and then we're going to held object transform position equals battery position. So that's going to now lock it into place there. And then in this case, once again, we just have the one battery, the one location for it. We're going to say we're going to add another serialized field. Oops, not that. We're going to do private game object, no, game object. Battery light. And so if this is the case, battery light dot set active true. And then what we can actually do, once we put the battery into place, we don't want to be able to remove it again, right? Like you've done this, you've set that, you've got it in the right position. We want to just lock it in. We can actually, if this is the case, we'll set that to true, and then we can say pick upable objects dot remove at 0. We know which position it is. We can find out the position. We know what position it is. This is going to remove it from that list. Now we can't pick this up again. Or maybe you want to have it so you can remove it and turn the light back off. You could set that up as well by tracking that, like, which light is the battery in, and so then that turns it on and off. That was easy enough to do. For this, we're just going to make it so we can't take it off again. We've put it in, it's just locked into place. So we want to go in, we need to go to our player, right? Because now we've got our battery position. We need to connect our battery socket to that. And then we're going to put our light, which is in the environment, the point light there. We're going to go ahead and, so leave that open. So as we go now, we should see that we're going to come up here. We're going to E to pick it up. You can see that it's connected here to battery. We're going to spin ourselves around. We're going to come up. I'm hoping that's close enough. We'll push E again. There it is. It's now socketed to, if you click down on the battery socket, the battery is now there, and our point light is there. And if we push E, it's not allowing us to pick it up. It doesn't exist, although it's pretending to think that it tries, but the list is empty. Something's getting... we need to... hold on. Hold on. We need to also... held object equals null. That should fix that little jumpity part, because it was trying to say that it was there and it was trying to add it back in. Let's see if that fixed it. Alright, come grab it. Oops. Spin myself around. There we go. I need to have my movement based off of the way I'm looking, but that's another time. Put that back in, and now when I push E, I can't interact with it. But I've got a nice little light, and that could trigger a door to open. That could trigger something else to happen, right? Lots of different potentials for that to be. So that's socketing in a nutshell. And yeah, that's where we'll end this video, and we'll see what's in the next one.